I was stirring my coffee when my phone buzzed, with the kind of notification that makes your stomach flip. Motion detected at your front gate. I thought it was a package. Or maybe a raccoon. Normal morning stuff. I opened the camera feed. And my hand froze. 5 HOA inspectors. 1 lawyer. All standing at my gate like they were about to serve a federal warrant. They weren't talking. They weren't moving. They were just lined up, staring at my house. I blinked twice. Nope, still there. That's when I noticed something else. They weren't holding clipboards. They were holding folders. Thick, overstuffed folders. And the lawyers. He had that confident, smug grin people wear right before they ruin your day. My first thought wasn't fear. It was annoyance. Because if there's one thing I hate, it's when people show up on my property without calling first. So I opened the door, grabbed my shotgun from the wall hook. It was unloaded, but they didn't know that, and walked out onto the porch. Nothing dramatic. No yelling. Just a man in pajamas, holding a shotgun like it was part of his morning routine. The way their faces changed. Beautiful. The lawyer actually took half a step back. I didn't even raise the shotgun. Just rested it on my shoulder. "Morning, gentlemen," I said. "Is there a reason you're forming a football huddle at my gate?" They didn't laugh, which made it funnier. The lawyer cleared his throat. Loud, like he was trying to swallow fear and authority at the same time. "Sir, you have multiple violations on your property. Serious violations." "Serious?" I asked. "You mean like when I planted tomatoes too close to the fence?" No smile. No reaction. These guys had zero sense of humor. "Open the gate," the lawyer said. "We need to inspect your land immediately." Immediately. Right now. At 7:23 in the morning. That's when my suspicion kicked in. HOA inspectors don't wake up this early unless they smell blood. Or money. So instead of opening the gate, I leaned on the porch railing and asked, "What violation are we talking about?" The lawyer lifted the folder like it weighed 10 pounds. "You have constructed an unauthorized structure, a structure not approved by the HOA board." A structure? I looked at my yard. I had a shed, a coop, a garden, a grill. Nothing unusual. "What structure?" I asked again. He didn't answer. Instead, one of the inspectors stepped forward and held up a photograph. A grainy, dark, zoomed-in photograph. At first, I couldn't understand what I was looking at. It was taken at night, from way inside my property, near the tree line, behind the pond. Nobody should be standing there. Ever. Unless they trespassed. "Where did you take this picture from?" I asked. They all glanced at each other. Zero eye contact. Zero answers. That told me everything. They weren't just accusing me of something. They were hiding something. I zoomed in on the photo with my eyes. And then I noticed something that made my skin prickle. The angle was too high. Too steady. It wasn't taken from someone standing on the ground. It was taken from above. Like a drone. A drone flying over my land. Without permission. Which is illegal. Suddenly, the lawyer spoke again. "We need access to your backyard, immediately." He sounded nervous now. Desperate, actually. And something in my gut told me they weren't afraid of me. Or my shotgun. Or the chicken coop they thought I built wrong. They were afraid of something else. Something behind my pond. Something they weren't supposed to lose. So I asked the simplest question I could. "What exactly are you trying to find back there?" Silence. 5 inspectors. 1 lawyer. Not a single mouth opened. That's when the tallest inspector muttered something so low, I barely heard it. He doesn't know yet. He doesn't know what. My heart kicked harder. Not from fear. From curiosity. Because when a group of grown adults in matching HOA windbreakers show up at your house looking like they committed a crime, you know something big is coming. The lawyer straightened his papers and tried again. Sir, open the gate. I didn't move. Tell me what I supposedly built, I said. He hesitated. Just a second. But it was enough to notice. Then he pulled another photo from the folder. And that's when the real story began. Not with a violation. Not with a chicken coop. But with something I never expected to see on my property. Something that didn't belong to me. Or to them. Something that somehow ended up in my pond. And the moment I saw that second photo, I knew this morning wasn't going to end peacefully. The lawyer held out the second photo like it was radioactive. His fingers were shaking this time. Not a lot, just enough to notice. I took the picture slowly. And the moment my eyes focused, my breath caught. Because whatever they thought I built wasn't anything I recognized. The image showed a metal shape. A shiny, boxy outline sitting near the water line of my pond. Half hidden by reeds. Reflecting moonlight. Not a shed. Not a chicken coop. Not even something homemade. It looked industrial. Expensive. And absolutely not mine. What is this? I asked. One of the inspectors swallowed hard. Another shifted awkwardly. The third looked like he wanted to run into the woods and never come back. The lawyer forced a smile. A tight, painful smile. Like his face didn't know how to make the shape naturally. That, he said, is your unauthorized structure. I stared at him. My structure? I've never seen that thing in my life. They didn't respond. They didn't blink. They were waiting, hopping. I just opened the gate and let them in. But I wasn't reopening anything until somebody answered my questions. So I stepped closer to the gate, lowered the photo, and asked, "When was this taken?" The lawyer looked at the inspector beside him. Inspector looked at the ground. That was my confirmation. Something wasn't right. So I repeated slower this time. When was this taken? Silence. Only the wind answered. Which meant they weren't allowed to say. Or didn't want to say. And if they didn't want to say, it meant they were hiding how they got the picture. I tightened my grip on the photo and continued. And how exactly did you take it? From where? Still nothing. No one met my eyes. That's when I knew. The drone. The one I caught them flying last week. The one Karen claimed was for community landscaping documentation. But this picture wasn't from last week. It wasn't from daylight. It wasn't from a normal angle. This was taken at night. Near the pond. At ground level. Meaning someone had been standing there. On my land. Behind my house. Near my pond. At night. Trespassing. I stepped down one stair, the shotgun still resting on my shoulder. You were on my property, I said. You were behind my pond in the middle of the night. A tiny tremor crossed the lawyer's face. He tried to recover. Tried to act confident. Failed miserably. Sir, please cooperate. This can all be handled quickly. His voice wasn't steady anymore. It had a wobble, like a violin string pulled too tight. I looked at the photo again. That metal object, whatever it was, it didn't look like something someone put there on purpose. It looked like something that fell there. Landed there. Crash landed. The shape wasn't sitting neatly on the bank. It was half buried. Dented. Splattered with mud. Why are you blaming me for something that's clearly not mine? I asked. The lawyer didn't answer. The inspectors didn't answer. They just kept glancing at the tree line behind me, like they were expecting someone or something to appear. My chest tightened, not from fear, from the growing realization that none of them were here for HOA violations. They were here for the thing in the picture, the thing near my pond, and they needed to get it before I did. I leaned against the gate and tapped the photo with my finger. Let me get this straight. You want me to open my gate because you found a metal box on my land that I've never seen before, and somehow that's my violation. The lawyer exhaled sharply. A defeated sound. You don't understand, he said. It wasn't supposed to end up there. End up. Not built. Not placed. End up. Like it hit the ground and slid. Where was it supposed to end up? I asked quietly. No answer. Just a flicker of panic. Then the tallest inspector whispered to the lawyer. You told him too much. Too much. The hair on the back of my neck rose. Something was very wrong. I stepped off the last porch step, closing the distance between us. Tell me what you dropped in my pond. Nobody spoke, but their silence was louder than any admission. Finally, the lawyer's face cracked. A split second of raw fear crossed his features. Then he said something that made the entire situation flip upside down. Something that made my pulse spike. Look, if we don't retrieve it, people could get hurt. Hurt? By what? Before he could explain, all 5 inspectors turned their heads sharply, like they heard something behind the trees. I turned too, but I saw nothing. Only the wind moving through the leaves. The lawyer wiped sweat off his forehead and whispered, We need that device before someone else finds it. Device? Not box. Not structure. Not equipment. Device. My pond had never felt so dangerous. Why, I asked slowly, would someone get hurt? He hesitated. Too long. Then he said, Because it's not just a box. He looked like he wanted to say more. But the inspector beside him grabbed his arm and shook his head sharply. And that's when it hit me. They didn't come to accuse me. They came to cover up something they had done. The metal case wasn't mine. It wasn't an HOA structure. And it wasn't harmless. Whatever it was, they lost control of it. And it landed on my property, right next to my pond. A chill slid down my spine. Because if they were this scared, I should be too. I heard the crunch of tires on gravel before I even saw her. Karen, HOA President Karen herself, strutting up my driveway like she owned the neighborhood. Her sunglasses were massive, way too big for a sunny morning. She didn't even glance at me. Her eyes were locked on the pond. I tightened my grip on the shotgun. Not that I planned to use it. Just enough to let her know I wasn't a pushover. She stopped 10 feet from me, took a deep breath. Good morning, she said. Her voice was calm, too calm. I didn't believe her. She had that I'm about to ruin your day aura. Behind her, 2 new people appeared. One carrying a small black case. The other scanning the air with a handheld device. A drone controller. They were here to search my property. From the sky, I forced myself to smile. Morning, Karen, care for coffee? She didn't flinch. Instead, she said, we need immediate access to your backyard for safety reasons. Safety reasons? My backyard was fenced, surrounded by woods. The pond, my pond. I stepped closer to her. Safety for whom? I asked. She paused, glanced at the inspectors, then back at me. You don't understand the seriousness of this situation, she said. I did understand. Because whatever this was, it wasn't about chickens, or sheds, or HOA rules. It was about the metal object in my pond. And she was scared. Her perfect smile faltered just for a second. And I caught it. The tallest inspector cleared his throat. We just need to retrieve it. I raised an eyebrow. Karen stepped forward. Sir, we can resolve this quickly if you cooperate. I took another step closer. Quickly, I repeated. You mean before someone else finds it? Her eyes flicked to the pond. Then back to me. Exactly, she whispered. I felt it in my chest. The first real jolt of fear. If they were this nervous, whatever was in that pond, they didn't want me seeing it. I didn't like that feeling. Not one bit. I motioned toward the pond. All right, I said slowly. You want to show me this device before it hurts anyone? She hesitated. I could see her mind racing. A mistake. Because hesitation is weakness. The lawyer stepped forward. Sir, this isn't just a device. It's sensitive, highly sensitive. You don't understand the legal ramifications if it's exposed. I tilted my head. You don't say. The inspector with the drone controller muttered. It fell in there by accident. Karen's head snapped toward him. He immediately shut up. I grinned. I loved it when grown adults were caught in lies. I glanced at the black case behind her. The way she clutched it. She was afraid I'd see what was inside. Afraid I'd take control. Afraid I'd know the truth. I tightened my hold on the shotgun. Just in case. Then Karen said the line that made my stomach twist. If we don't get it back, someone could get hurt. Her voice was quieter now, almost desperate. I stepped closer to the pond. Someone, I asked. Who? She didn't answer. The lawyers didn't answer. The inspectors avoided my eyes. And that's when I knew. This wasn't about HOA violations. This wasn't about me. This was about something they lost. Something dangerous. Something that should never have been on my property. I took a slow breath. I knew I had to control the situation. Because if they were scared, I had the advantage. I motioned to one of the inspectors. Show me where it fell. He swallowed hard, then pointed at the edge of the pond. There it was. A glint of metal, half buried in mud. My heart pounded. Not in fear. In anticipation. Because this was no ordinary HOA problem. This was bigger. Much bigger. Karen tried to interrupt. Sir, please don't touch it yet. I ignored her. I wanted answers. And they were going to give them to me. The wind rustled the trees behind us. The drone hovered overhead. The lawyers whispered to inspectors. But I only had eyes for the pond. For that shiny metal object lying in the mud. For the secret that had brought 5 HOA inspectors, a lawyer and Karen herself, all the way to my driveway. I stepped closer. My finger tapped the shotgun. Tell me everything, I said. Nobody spoke. But their panic was louder than any words. Because the moment I touched that pond, everything was about to explode. And I had no idea how deep the rabbit hole went. I took a slow step toward the pond. The mud squished under my boots. Karen's eyes darted from me to the water like a predator tracking prey. The drone buzzed above, scanning. I felt its cold hum on my neck. I ignored it. My eyes locked on the metal object half submerged in the mud. It gleamed like it was alive. I motioned to the tallest inspector. "Who's been here?" I demanded. He froze. Sweat glistened on his forehead. We didn't mean any harm," he stammered. Karen gasped. "Stop talking," she hissed. I ignored her. "Meaning?" I asked. "You trespassed on my property." Silence. I could see the tension in their bodies. The way they shuffled feet. The way their eyes avoided mine. The way the lawyer's fingers fidgeted with the folder. All the proof I needed. Then I held up my phone. "Tree-line cameras," I said casually. "I have them. Every inch of my property is recorded." They froze. Karen's lips pressed into a thin line. I smiled. I pressed play. The screen showed movement behind the trees. 2 figures, slipping through the woods, climbing down to the pond. The tallest inspector's face went pale. The lawyer whispered something too low for me to hear. The figures in the footage carried something. A metal object. Heavy, not carefully placed. Dropped right into my pond. I leaned closer to the video. The water rippled. The case sank. Mud splashed. They didn't notice. I did. Karen muttered, We didn't want him to see this." I chuckled. "Oh, you didn't want me to see it." Too late for that. The lawyer finally spoke. But his words sounded weak. "Sir, that device, it's sensitive, government sensitive." My eyebrows shot up. "Government sensitive." "Yeah," he whispered. "Not for public knowledge." Now I was intrigued. Not scared. Curiosity overrode caution. The pond water lapped at my boots. I glanced at the inspectors. They looked like kids caught stealing candy. And Karen, she looked like she was about to collapse. I leaned closer to the pond. I reached down toward the object. The moment my fingers brushed the metal, I felt power. Or at least the weight of the secret inside. Karen stepped forward. "Sir, stop. You don't know what you're touching." I looked at her. "You never said I couldn't touch it. You just told me it might hurt someone." She stumbled over words. The lawyer tried to pull her back. "Leave it," he shouted. "You don't understand." I lifted the object halfway out of the water. The mud slid off. Water poured. The metal gleamed in the morning sun. It was bigger than I expected. Heavier. More dangerous looking. And it had markings. Symbols. Numbers. Serial codes. The kind you don't see on a chicken coop or a mailbox. Karen's eyes went wide. You weren't supposed to open it." I turned it in my hands. Inspected it. Still no explanation from them. Then I heard it. A whisper from the inspector closest to the trees. "Someone's coming." I froze. Karen stiffened. The lawyer's face drained of color. "Coming?" I asked. "Who?" No one answered. The drone hovered closer. Its propellers slicing the air. The sound masking something else. Footsteps. Heavy. Crunching leaves. Someone was moving fast. I took a half step back. The object in my hands. The shotgun ready. The wind shifted. And then I saw them. 2 black SUVs rolling slowly down my driveway. No sirens. No lights. Just 2 dark vehicles gliding like predators. Karen gasped. The inspectors panicked. I stared at the SUVs. Heart racing. Shotgun at my side. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know what they wanted. But one thing was clear. Whatever this was, it had escalated far beyond the HOA. Far beyond chicken coops, fines, or property rules. And the next few minutes were going to decide everything. The black SUVs stopped. Engines idling. Two men stepped out. Tall, broad, silent. No logos, no badges. Nothing identifying them except the way they moved, like they owned the world. Karen's face went pale. The inspectors froze. The lawyer's jaw dropped slightly. One of the men looked at me. Cold. Intent. Dangerous. Where is it? He asked. I held the metal object closer. Where is what? I asked. He didn't answer my question. He repeated his own. Where is it? Karen stumbled forward. It's just a device, she stammered. The man ignored her. His partner stepped closer, hands hovering, like he was ready to grab the object from me. I tightened my grip, shotgun still resting at my side. I wasn't about to give up control. Tell me what it is, I said. No answer. Only stares. The kind that make your stomach twist. Finally, the first man said slowly, You don't understand. That device, it's dangerous, highly dangerous. I raised an eyebrow. Dangerous how? Karen whispered, If he touches it, it could. But she never finished. The second man reached toward the object. I stepped in front of it. You don't touch it, I said. He hesitated. The drone hovered closer. Its shadow danced across the muddy water. Then I noticed something else. The pond itself was moving oddly. Ripples in a pattern. Not from the wind. Not from animals. Something beneath the water. My pulse kicked into overdrive. Wait, I said. Something in there. The first man's eyes widened. Not with fear. With panic. He muttered under his breath. Get it out now. Karen took a step back. Her confidence gone. The inspectors whispered to each other. The lawyer cursed under his breath. I glanced down at the device. Metal cold, solid, heavy. But the pond was calling my attention. Something dark beneath the surface. I took a deep breath. You've been lying, I said. Someone left this here. Someone fell in the pond or dropped it. You weren't supposed to lose it. The first man nodded sharply. Yes. Yes what? I demanded. But he didn't answer. Instead, the second SUV door opened. Another figure emerged. Bigger, older, silent. The kind of man you don't argue with. He didn't look at me. He looked at the pond. Then, without warning, one of the inspectors blurted out. It wasn't supposed to end up here. Karen spun toward him. You don't say that. But I heard it loud and clear. Not a coincidental fall. Not an accident. Something deliberate. The pond rippled again. The metal case shifting slightly in the shallow mud. I stepped forward slowly. The men tensed. Karen's hands shook. Do you even know what's in it? I asked. The first man's lips twitched. Yes, he admitted. Too much. Too much, I echoed. Too dangerous. He didn't answer. Instead, he glanced nervously at the second SUV. Then finally, the first man spoke. If it gets out, people could get hurt. That sentence made my blood run cold. Not for me. For everyone around here. I tightened my grip on the device. Then why was it left in my pond? I demanded. No one spoke. Only the wind. Only the drones. only the sound of water lapping at my boots. Then the second man whispered, "You shouldn't have found it." And in that moment, I realized something important. This was no longer an HOA problem. No longer about fines or illegal structures. This was about a secret someone had desperately tried to hide. And now I had it. The tallest inspector swallowed hard. The lawyer muttered something under his breath. Karen stared at me like I had turned into a monster. I could feel the tension snapping. Any second, someone might make a move. I glanced at the black SUVs. The drivers were watching. Silent, ready. The pond rippled again. The device shifted slightly. And then from the shadows, I heard movement. Someone or something was coming through the woods. Not the inspectors. Not the HOA. Someone else. The kind of person you don't want to meet at 7 in the morning, holding a secret that could destroy lives. I tightened my grip on the device. The shotgun felt heavier. The adrenaline hit my system. I knew one thing for certain. This was just the beginning. Whatever had been lost, whatever had ended up in my pond, was about to pull me into a fight I had never signed up for. And the next few minutes would decide whether I walked away or got swallowed by it completely. I could feel every eye on me. The first man. The second man. Karen. The lawyers. Even the inspectors, frozen like statues. All of them were waiting. Waiting to see what I would do. I waded into the shallow water. Mud squelched between my toes. Cold water lapped my boots. The metal case sat half buried in mud. I reached down slowly. Careful. The moment my fingers touched it, I felt weight. Not just physical. A weight of consequences. The device was heavier than it looked. Solid metal. Cold. Deadly looking. I lifted it out. Mud fell off. Water poured. The metal glinted in the sunlight. The inspectors flinched. Karen gasped. You don't know what you're holding." I turned toward her. "Try me," I said. "Or better yet, tell me." The first man clenched his fists. His knuckles white. He said quietly, almost shaking, "It's not just a box. It's sensitive technology, extremely sensitive." I frowned. "What does that mean?" He avoided my eyes. The kind of avoidance that tells you everything. Karen stuttered. It's not supposed to be here. Not in your pond, not anywhere you could touch it." I held it higher. Inspected it. There were markings. Serial codes. Numbers, symbols I didn't recognize. The second man's face turned pale. "I warned you," he muttered. "Warn me about what?" The wind rustled through the trees. The drone hovered closer. Worried, annoying, but also helpful, because it made sure no one else could sneak up behind me. And then I noticed the ripples. The pond wasn't calm anymore. Small bubbles rose near the center. Water moved in weird patterns, like something beneath the surface was stirring. I froze. The first man's eyes widened. He muttered, "Get it out before it activates." Karen's hands shook. She tried to take a step forward, but her courage was gone. The inspectors whispered nervously. The lawyer's jaw tightened. I could feel the tension crackling in the air. I tightened my grip on the device. It was my leverage now. The thing they feared most was in my hands. Then I heard it. A snap. Branches breaking behind the trees. Footsteps. Heavy, fast, deliberate. I spun around. 2 black SUVs were parked at the driveway. Engines idling. Doors opened. Men stepped out. Not HOA. Not inspectors. Professionals. The kind of people you don't want to meet in your backyard. One of them approached slowly. Hands visible. Eyes locked on the device. Karen's voice cracked. They're here to get it back. Back, I asked. Back from where? The first SUV man didn't answer. He just said, low and steady. You have it now, that's all we need to know. I tightened my hold on the device. The mud squished beneath me. Water dripping. You're not getting it, I said. No one touches it without me knowing what it is. His eyes narrowed. A warning. Not a threat. Yet, the pond rippled again. The water moving in a strange, unnatural pattern. Something beneath it shifted. The second man glanced at the first. Then back at me. Step away slowly, he said. Do not drop it, do not provoke it. I swallowed hard. I didn't know what it meant. But I could feel danger. A real, tangible danger. Karen stuttered. We didn't mean for anyone to find it. It was an accident. Accident. I laughed bitterly. Right, an accident that ends up in my pond at 2 a.m. with 5 HOA inspectors and a lawyer standing around nervously. The first man's eyes darkened. Sir, we cannot allow you to keep it. You don't understand the consequences. I held it tighter. I understand consequences, I said slowly. I also understand lying, and you all have been lying. Suddenly, movement behind the trees caught my eye. Not the SUVs. Not the inspectors. Something else. Someone else. The device pulsed slightly in my hands. A low hum I hadn't heard before. The air grew colder. The wind died. Even the drone seemed to hesitate. And I realized this was no longer about fines. No longer about HOA rules. It was about survival. And whatever was in that pond wanted back what was taken. The black SUVs were parked at the end of my driveway. Engines idling. Doors opened. 2 men stepped out. No badges. No logos. Nothing to identify them except their eyes. Cold, calculating. They didn't speak. They just walked. Straight toward me. Karen's face turned pale. The inspectors shuffled backward, whispering among themselves. The lawyer's jaw tightened. I could see every bead of sweat on his forehead. The first man stopped a few feet from me. His gaze locked on the metal device in my hands. Hand it over, he said quietly. I tightened my grip. Not happening, I said. He tilted his head. Step aside. No, I said again. Not until you explain what this is. The second man stepped forward. Hands open. A warning. Not a threat yet. Karen stepped between us. Please, she pleaded. Give it to them, they'll handle it discreetly. I looked at her. Her perfect HOA confidence was gone. All that remained was panic. I turned back to the men. Who are you? The first man smiled. Not friendly. People who want to keep this quiet. I frowned. Quiet, what does that even mean? He didn't answer. Instead, his partner inched closer. Reaching for the device. I planted my feet. Held the case closer. You don't touch it, I said. The second man's eyes narrowed. If you don't hand it over, we take it. I stiffened. Take it, I repeated. You mean by force? He nodded slightly. Karen gasped. The inspectors whispered frantic warnings. The lawyer muttered, "Yuka." But it was too late. My instincts kicked in. Adrenaline surged. I wasn't letting this go. I stepped back toward the pond. Mud squishing under my boots. Device still in my hands. The wind rustled. The pond rippled. And I noticed movement beneath the surface. Something shifting. Something alive. Something dangerous. The first man froze. The second man's jaw tightened. I realized then what they feared. Not me. Not my shotgun. Not even Karen. It was the pond. And whatever was in it. The water bubbled violently. The drone hovered closer. Propellers slicing the air. And that's when my neighbor Earl came roaring up. ATV screaming. Camera phone out. Filming everything. The men flinched. Karen screamed. The inspectors panicked. I smiled. Earl's arrival changed everything. The two black SUV's men glanced at each other. Then at me. Then at the camera. They didn't like being recorded. I saw hesitation in their eyes. And hesitation is weakness. The first man muttered something into an earpiece. The second man stepped back slightly. Karen's voice cracked. You fools, you have to get it back. I held the device tighter. Not going anywhere, I said. The pond rippled again. Bubbles rose near the metal case. Something under the water stirred violently. The first man's face went pale. He whispered, "You shouldn't have found it." I took a step forward. The device in my hands. The pond behind me. The SUV's men frozen. And then suddenly, the second SUV door opened. Another figure emerged. Older, larger, silent. Everyone instinctively took a step back. Even Karen. He didn't approach me. He didn't approach the pond. He only looked. At the device. At me. And then he nodded. The tension snapped like a wire. The two black SUV men muttered into earpieces. Their posture shifted. Panic flashed across their faces. Then they retreated. Karen screamed, "You can't leave it here." The inspectors scattered. The lawyer muttered curses under his breath. I stood there gripping the device. Earl filming everything. The pond rippling like it had a life of its own. And then the older man turned to me. He said only one thing. "Keep it safe, don't let anyone touch it, not until the right people come." Then he vanished into the trees. The SUVs roared away. Engines screaming. Silence fell. Karen was shaking. The inspectors slumped. The lawyer muttered, "This isn't over." I looked at the pond. The device still heavy in my hands. Mud dripping. Water running down my arms. I realized something important. This wasn't about the HOA. This wasn't about fines. Or chicken coops. Or property rules. This was something much bigger. Something I had stumbled into. Something no one was supposed to know existed. And I now had it. Safe for now. But I knew the next move would be mine. And I had to be ready. Because whatever had been lost, whatever they wanted back, was far from done. The SUVs were gone. The pond was calm again. The device heavy in my hands. Earl was still filming, shouting, "You got this, don't let M take it." I laughed. Nervous, adrenaline-fueled laughter. Karen was packing. Hands on her hips. Trying to act in charge. But her voice shook. You don't understand. This is serious." I raised an eyebrow. "Serious how? Because you almost lost your mind over a box in my pond." She sputtered. The inspectors whispered to each other. The lawyer just shook his head. I took a step toward the device. Held it up. You all came here acting like kings. 5 inspectors, a lawyer, and you. I pointed at Karen. All for this. Karen opened her mouth. But no words came out. I turned to Earl. Film this every second, this is proof. The first inspector muttered. Sir, you don't know what you're holding. I shrugged. Clearly, but I know enough to know you're hiding something, and I don't like being lied to. Karen snapped. You can't keep it, you'll get us all in trouble. I smiled. A slow, devilish grin. Trouble, Karen, I think you already brought it here, and now it's mine. The pond reflected the morning sun. Glinting off the device, the water rippled slightly again, almost like it was alive. I tightened my grip. This is staying here until I know what it is, and until you stop lying to me. Karen's jaw dropped. The lawyer ran his hand through his hair. The inspectors glanced at each other like schoolchildren caught stealing. Then a sound behind us. The older man. The one who gave the nod. He stepped from the trees. Silent, powerful, unmistakably in control. He glanced at the device. Then at me. Keep it safe, he said. Do not let anyone touch it until the right people arrive. Understood. I nodded slowly. Yes, understood. He gave a small, approving nod. Then he vanished into the trees again. Karen turned to me. This isn't over. You don't know what you've done. I shrugged. Maybe, but I know one thing. You're not getting it. Not today, not ever. The inspectors shuffled away, mumbling, trying to act like they were leaving on their own terms. The lawyer lingered, then finally muttered, Enjoy your morning while it lasts. And he left. I stood there, device in hand. The pond calm again. The world quiet. Earl gave me a thumbs up. You just handled 5 HOA inspectors, a lawyer, and Karen herself, all before breakfast. I laughed. Nervous, shaky laughter. I glanced at the pond, the water rippling ever so slightly. I didn't know what was inside the device. I didn't know what it could do. I didn't know who else would come looking for it. But I knew one thing. It was mine. For now. And I wasn't letting anyone take it. Not Karen. Not the inspectors. Not the SUVs. Not anyone. I wiped my hands on my pants. Mud and water dripping. Coffee, I asked Earl. Because I think we just survived the craziest HOA morning in history. He laughed. Survived? You barely touched it and nearly got everyone arrested, and that's just part 1. I grinned. Part 1. Yeah, he said. You just opened the door to something way bigger than HOA violations, my friend. I glanced at the pond again. Device still heavy in my hands. Ripples shimmering. And I knew he was right. Whatever this was, it had chosen me. And the next chapter would be even crazier. For now, I had one victory. I held the device high. Sunlight glinting off the metal. Feeling powerful. Feeling in control. Karen glared from her car. Inspectors scattered behind her. The lawyer muttering curses. And me. I was laughing. Because I had faced the impossible. I had stared danger in the face. And I had won. At least for today. The pond rippled one last time. A reminders. A warnings. A promise. And I smiled. Because if they thought I was done, they had no idea. You've heard this confession, now wait until you hear the next one. The truth that shatters everything you thought you knew.